All right. Hello, I'm Benny Westside, and I have here with me across the portal.
Cleaning agent.
There we go.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. Today we're going to talk about the second episode of season 2 of Loki.
Yeah.
We can start with a quick recap of what happened. We started out in the TVA. Basically, we kind of scooped up the end of the first season. There was this crisis going on. Loki was slipping in and out of time. I think it was called time slipping.
Yeah.
And we were trying to find a way to fix it. It eventually ended up he had to get pruned and then sucked out of the timeline
Right.
just as he gets pruned. And when he was pruned, he was coincidentally in the future of the TVA, and for a split second he saw Sylvie, and that was kind of where we left off.
Right.
Sylvie was missing, and like one thread is that Sylvie's missing. We don't know where she is, and we don't know how to find her. And then another thread is now the timeline is splitting, and then there's some let's say like Kang heretics that want to prune it back to the what's called the what do we call it? Perfect timeline? No.
Yeah, ultimate timeline, bestest.
Yes.
I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, some like yeah, yeah.
That's how much that's how much we care about it.
Yeah,
showing our hand a little early.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's something like that. Ideal, the ideal timeline.
Yeah. And then there's people that are like, no, we need to let those people live. That's kind of where we're at.
Sacred timeline. Thank you, chat. We're also filming this live on Twitch, so feel free to join Benny Westside, Cleaning Agent. We both are on Twitch. Come hang out. But yes, it's called the Sacred Timeline. And you were right. Some of the TVA seem to be like still in old practice of, hey, we got to trim this thing. And part of it is like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, if they keep trimming it, the whole place isn't going to implode. Like it seems to be. Obi is like his main focus right now of keeping the whole place working and not blowing up and massive disaster, which I don't even know what that equates to. Do we know what happens? Did he explain what happens if the whole thing goes kaboom?
Even if he did, I didn't understand.
Okay, fair. So that was like a recap of episode 1, I think, for sure. That made sense to me. And then we jumped into episode 2. Do you want to just go straight into a nice, easy question?
Sure.
Did you like the episode, Benny Westside?
I did.
Oh!
I did. Yeah, this time I liked it.
We swapped because I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. I love that we swapped from episode 1 to episode 2.
Yeah, it's so funny.
That'll give us plenty to talk about, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me throw it to you then. What did you like about this episode? And I guess we can talk about what you liked, and that'll eventually lead to what the episode's about.
Sure. But let me preface this. Recently, I've been falling asleep at 10 p.m.
Nice.
So I started watching this at 10 last night. And like 10 minutes into it,
it was so good. You just went right to dreamland. Yeah, okay.
But the thing is, like, for me, that falling asleep is not directly correlated to whether it's good or not.
Fair enough.
So I woke up towards the end, watched the end, and I was like, no, I need to circle back because this was good. So I circled back, fell asleep again, and then third time's the charm, I finally finished it completely.
I love it.
It took me like an hour and a half to watch.
That's great. So you liked that it was so easy to fall asleep in this episode.
Sure. Well, like, this starting part was already, to me, leagues better than the first episode. Because we were outside. We were not in the TVA.
Yes, we were in the Sacred Timeline and chasing B5,
X5.
B15,
X5.
X5.
No, B15's the girl we like.
Right.
X5 is part of the heretics, but he decided he's gonna go live his life that he got pruned away from, or like plucked away from, to be recruited into the TVA. And they think because he's such a good hunter, he must have found Sylvie. It's kind of a long shot. Oh, he's so good.
It is
even
a real,
though he quit hunting her, he must have. That's so stupid.
Yeah, it's like he must have found her and decided, no, you know what? I'm too good at this job. I want to just go live outside of this TVA baloney. You know, try my hand at acting.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I really didn't understand that logic either. Like, if he tracked down Sylvie and had a conversation with her, that's something different, because then she convinced him to throw it all away. But there was zero inkling of that whatsoever in the episode, as far as I saw. I mean, I didn't fall asleep in it. I think I saw it all. Yeah. But so that to me was really weird. The other question I had about that specifically is, what did he do with his other self?
That I was wondering that too, and he probably killed or like pruned him, sent him to the end of time, something like that.
Yeah.
Or like tied him up, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, can he prune him without causing a branch? Like, would pruning the whatever his name, Brad, I think, Brad, yeah. Can he prune Brad, or does that offshoot into another branch?
I think it's like, you know how in Endgame they like took the Infinity Stone and then brought it back exactly to the right point?
Right.
It's similar to that, where he like pruned the guy and then replaced him at exactly the same point.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. It's like, because there has to be like, there's a reason, which obviously we find out he chooses the sacred timeline. We know later in the episode because they're blowing all the branches, right? So that made sense to me, why they had to specify that and why he chose that specifically. But yeah, his reasoning and how the whole Sylvie being found thing is just such poorly written trash. It was a negative strike on my side.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll give you that.
But you liked opening with the action, getting it, you know, a little more. You get some Loki powers, which we haven't seen for 18 episodes.
I know that. Like, I was about to say that. Like, Loki got to Loki.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. I'll give you that. It was nice to actually see Loki do something and actually succeed.
Yes.
And live in what we know Loki to be, I think, is more important for myself. You know, he knows how to manipulate people and get the upper hand on people using trickery, which I was talking about last episode, right? That's what we've been missing. So I did appreciate that. So yes, that's a tick to the positive for sure. Yeah. What else did you like about this episode specifically?
I think that because it started on such a good note, that like set the tone for me.
Right. Even though the remainder of the episode was mostly talking over pie.
Yeah. It's like, how much time, again, comes to the claustrophobia of the TVA. Like, how much time are we going to spend in the same rooms?
Yeah.
But like, we saw Sylvie again, and she's up to something, but we don't know what that is. Like,
is she?
Like, what was she holding at the end? I stopped and like tried to understand what it was, but
it looked like it was like He Who Remains temp pad or whatever.
Oh,
but I don't know if it's actually visible, but I assume that's what it was. And she just cloaks it, kind of like Loki does, right? It cloaks whatever they want. That's what I assumed, because she was like doing different time stuff. So that would be my guess. I don't know if I agree that she's up to something. It seems like she just like wants to be done with it all. That's what I got from it. Aside from like, oh, they found out they're blowing all the branches. Obviously, she has to step in, right?
Yeah, I guess. the whole blowing up the branches. Won't they restart though? Because they're not gonna like continuously keep blowing.
Yeah,
They did like one strike, but like the minute they stop pruning, it's gonna
more
restart
branches
again.
are going. Yeah, for sure, 100%. And I felt, and this is again bringing it back to me if I didn't like this episode. Is like we've seen all this before. Like these characters have all already come to terms of the horrible amounts of people dying by pruning branches, and now we're just watching it again with those same people who already feel bad about it. So it's like, what are we gaining exactly in this episode? Aside from now we know where Sylvie is, which took zero effort whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned, because the best hunter in the game found her and retired. She's like, job well done. I'm out of the game now. Retiring on a high note. Like I just didn't see the value of like my most important task as Loki right now is finding Sylvie and finding out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then they immediately find Sylvie and they cut away from any potential dialogue of interest they could have had, and we watch Mobius eat more pie.
Yeah. I guess it is less properly constructed than usual.
That's what I felt. I felt like just as a whole, the story was lacking in this episode.
Yeah.
But as you said, the fun action at the beginning totally draws you in.
Yeah, and just Loki being able to do it because he's depowered in the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically just like Desk Job Joe, right?
He's a wet noodle. Yeah.
Yes. So like getting him to like run around and like trick somebody and do mirror images, that I think really started it on a high note for me.
Mm-hmm.
It might be something like No Way Home. Like when I came out of that was epic, right? Like the movie was fantastic. A couple days, it's great, but once you start thinking about it, oh no, that's like it's really terribly constructed.
Yeah, like, I mean,
how did they even make this?
I agree. No Way Home was like the ultimate fan service movie, and I appreciated it for that and nothing more than that.
Oh yeah.
And to like what I think you enjoy, in its purest form, it was like a straight up comic book movie. Logic is kind of out the window. Like why Doctor Strange would ever do any of this is it totally doesn't make sense. But it happens in comic book stories just like that. And so it's like stupid ideas lead to amazing fun outcomes. And I think it knew it was that and played on that. And so that's why it's so enjoyable. Whereas yes, well constructed, maybe not so much.
It was a very entertaining mid to bad movie is like my usual like explanation of No Way Home.
That's so
and
funny.
maybe this episode is more like that.
Right. I mean, I hate pointing out all these bad things and swaying your mind. Because I want you to enjoy the show if you're enjoying the show, right? But
I'm already enjoying the experience.
Right, that's fair. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, just because I like being long-winded and making videos way longer than they should be, you mentioned No Way Home and how you liked it.
Well, I enjoyed it. I didn't like it.
You enjoyed it for what it was, even though you would qualify it as a mid-grade movie at best.
Yeah, I don't like the movie, yeah.
Right, okay. Last episode, we talked about our favorite Marvel TV series, and this just kind of like triggered me to think, what's your favorite MCU movie? Yeah. If you had to pick one. I put him on the spot, everybody.
I think it's tough for me to like pinpoint one, but I would say Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yes. That is probably, I would say, most people's number one pick because it is such a well-crafted movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I again, I know it's the better movie, but for me, because of what I like about comic book movies, I have to say Infinity War.
Mm,
Just because you finally get some payoff to the buildup over all the years of good and bad movies. Um, and there was a lot of good fan service in there without being over the top, which I found Endgame was too much. Whereas
yeah, I can agree with that.
Infinity Watch had a balance of good fan service, this buildup of all these characters, and you got the great story of Thanos. And I love that it was Thanos' story more than
Yeah,
anybody else's. So that's why that one's kind of in the top for me as far as MCU
yeah,
movies. But I would say Winter
yeah,
Soldier is the better movie. Yeah.
yeah. I think Infinity War is definitely top 10, if not top 5. I would also
Right.
agree.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's get back into it. I'm sidetracking
sure.
us. Where do we go from here? I talked a little bit what I didn't like. You talked about a little bit what you liked.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here? Is there anything else you noticed in this episode, like maybe little things like why this happened, why this didn't happen, or anything like that? Anything that stood out to you for any reason whatsoever, or were you just sleeping through it
Not
all?
really. I would say like the fight at the end was kind of just generic.
Agreed.
That wasn't anything like to write home about. But it was interesting how Loki and Sylvie basically did like a team up animation.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They did the team up animation from Marvel Strike Force.
Yeah,
Which is funny. And she's like, don't read into this because yeah, we're doing this just to get through it, right? Not I like you again. Um,
yeah.
but I agree.
Which
I agree with you. It fell into the classic superhero movie trope of we need a big bang ending, but
yeah,
it's for not really. It's like whatever.
yeah,
So I felt it wasn't a great ending.
yeah. And it left on like the scene of Sylvie just ditching the situation and going back to her McDonald's life,
Hmm.
which good for her. Like she's not worried about the TVA
Yeah, for sure. And she also
or
said like if any Kangs come lurking around, she'll just take care of them as she needs to, right? It's like she just,
yeah,
and that's what also is like I feel she's disconnected from the whole thing, just wants to,
hmm
and I guess it's mentioned like she's been doing this for hundreds of years, right? So she just needs
yeah,
a break. She's taken the W and she's sitting on the
yeah.
bench for a bit.
So I have one question.
Okay.
She went back to her McDonald's life, and McDonald's was on like a not on the sacred timeline. She wasn't on the sacred timeline.
She's purposely chose a branch. Yes.
Yeah. So when these guys did the strike and pruned a bunch of timelines, do we think they pruned all of the then existing timelines and then just they started regrowing and Sylvie just went back to hers?
No, I assume that one, they wouldn't have had time to get all of the branches in one go, and two, they got interrupted mid blow.
Okay.
So I'm guessing hers just happened to be one that didn't get destroyed,
Okay.
and I'm sure there's more out there.
Oh
But
yeah.
I think it's going to buy Obi some time, which is probably needed.
Mm.
It's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
this is
They thinned the bundle.
a convenient little, yeah. They trimmed it up for him, so he has a little more time to alter it. But they
Yeah.
did mention that Obi needed a Kang aura to actually get back into
Oh
the
yeah.
system or something, right? Which is odd. And
Yes.
unfortunately, goes a little bit against what you predicted might be Obi being a Kang variant.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
which I just realized that now, just saying it out loud again, being like, "Oh, you said that would be a cool, interesting thing," which I totally agreed with, but that kind of curbs that theory, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I still at this point, I love Obi. And it looks like we'll get more of him, and that's okay with me. I don't know. I don't know what else I'm looking forward to right now.
Hopefully, once we start looking for Kang, he spices things up.
Right. Yeah, ideally.
But
But the problem with that is they just blew a bunch of branches, which is going to delay Kang from coming. Because the whole point is Kang will only appear or, become sentient or whatever it is after the branches go for a little while, right? So, they just reset the whole thing for the most part. So I'm just not sure where the show goes from here, aside from Loki begging Sylvie to be his friend.
Yeah. Unless Sylvie picked hers for a specific reason, for a specific Kang.
Right, if there's an actual deeper meaning behind what she's doing. Not just promoting McDonald's for the world.
Do you think, they must have. I was going to say, do you think they got a brand deal?
100%. That another reason why I didn't like this episode is so far, this is just a big promotion for McDonald's.
Yeah, it makes it so cheap. Can you imagine, I don't know. I can't. I couldn't find a simile.
Yeah,
I don't know. It just feels cheap and not good.
I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. But I'm still hopeful that they do have some clever writing and again a great cast. So I'm hopeful that Obi really shines and pulls this season through for us.
Yes.
And we still have the setup of the first episode of who pruned Loki.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it because he mentions that she was there, and she's like, I don't give a what. But it reminded me, when he opened the door, she's like, hey, there you are. She was expecting him to be there.
Yeah.
She
was looking for him.
It reinforces to me that it might be Loki pruning himself, because she was already expecting him to be there. But again, that's a reach, and will we ever find out? Maybe.
That's sort of like the Harry Potter situation of he knew that the pruning had to be done, so he did it himself.
Right. It's just a matter of how that actually happens, because now his time slipping is fixed, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Obi cured him of that somehow by plucking him out of it. So I don't know. It's still strange. But that's really the only mystery that they've put on screen for us to care about right now. So it's bound to come around again. Yeah. It's the Ouroboros. It's gonna come around to that. Beginning and end is gonna be the same episode. And here's my pitch for the end scene of the last episode. Okay, I'm calling it right now. It's we cut back to unknowing Loki being like, oh, why is this phone ringing? And then we see the rotting, as you so elegantly put it before, and he gets pruned, and behind him is Loki eating a Big Mac, being like, sorry, I'm late.
Yes.
Cut to black. That's my guess.
That's the season finale?
That's the finale, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, sure. I could see the finale being the other side of that scene. Maybe
sure.
Sylvie's experience.
Yeah. So you'll see all of Sylvie's end, and it will lead to that moment, and we'll see who pruned, and we'll see the burger in Loki's hand.
Yeah.
With the prune rod. Yeah. That's my guess for sure.
Maybe Sylvie was rushing to find Loki because she had the ketchup.
That's service with a smile.
We will go to the end of time to get you your food.
Absolutely. The whole season has been paid for by McDonald's. and brought to you
Yeah.
by McDonald's.
And it makes sense because, like, in the past, when Sylvie started working there, McDonald's didn't do delivery.
Exactly.
It was like you had to go to the restaurant to eat. But, like, maybe in the past 5 years for our timeline, it only
Right.
started, right?
Yeah,
And, like, in the future, it's improved so much.
Yeah. Absolutely. The
I
same
don't know,
person
could
who
be.
you order from delivers it within minutes. Wow. This took a turn.
Interesting you say minutes. We haven't
Oh,
heard
yeah.
from Miss Minutes.
They did they mention Miss Minutes at all this episode? Yes. Um the pen ink guy, what's his name? He mentioned Miss Minutes, right? Being missing again. Like she would be able to help them with a bunch of stuff, but she's not here.
Yeah. I think even Ouroboros said it. Like if we had access to Miss Minutes, we wouldn't need Kang's aura.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, and we think that what's her name and Miss Minutes kind of are off together doing whatever they're doing.
Maybe.
Because that was like the last thing we saw was Miss Minutes was talking to what's her name?
Renslayer?
Renslayer, yes.
Yeah. So what if Miss Minutes was at Kang's mansion.
Yes.
What if like Sylvie kind of like trapped her into the tempad?
It's possible. Can't escape. Try to really throw the TVA out to lunch.
Because she knows Miss Minutes is like in cahoots.
Yeah, and probably fairly important. It's possible. Possible. Is that even an option? Who knows? Again, good theory though. I can't wait for them to crush it soon. But I mean, that's the part of the fun of that. To me, that's more fun than watching the episodes. Is like thinking of what could happen and why McDonald's is so prevalent. Yeah, I don't know. I guess was there anything else? Any other things you noticed or have questions or thoughts about?
No, we came up with some nice theories.
I think so, yeah. I think the only other thing I like kind of noticed, and again, this might be my theater background coming through, is like it was very two-toned filming this, like the color correction on this. There's the very orange tones and very teal tones, which is like it's kind of a movie trope kind of thing that's been used more recently, those specific colors. And so I double checked. It was like, this is a thing, right? That I'm doing, I'm seeing here. And so yeah, it's kind of a basis of complementary colors, making objects appear closer and farther away, and just kind of playing with those colors to make things pop out or more pleasing to the eye. So I noticed that more than in episode 1, and I don't know if it's that it wasn't in episode 1 or they really hit it home in this episode. But I'm not really sure why, because I'm not sure, like...
Let me check. Maybe the directors are different, because sometimes...
Yeah, each episode could be directed by somebody else, that's for sure. The only other thing is, like, in just thinking about it, is, like, I found, like, TVA, Loki scenes were more prevalent, the orange tinted scenes, which kind of is, like, a higher energy type scenes. And the Sylvie scenes tended to be more of the teal and more relaxing tones. And maybe that's why I kind of am pushed into the thought that Sylvie is like, I'm done with this. I don't want anything to do with this. I'm at peace. I'm in my cool colors here.
Yeah.
Where Loki's like pushing and like high energy. Let's get this done. We got to do something, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting catch. Orange is like more passionate, and like teal is kind of indifferent and like over it.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So, yeah.
The directors are different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if it means anything or if it's a one-off because of the director thing. That's a good point. But it's just something like I noticed, I guess, I don't know.
Nice. Well,
what do you think? Is this a wrap on episode 2?
I think so.
I think we more than enough promoted McDonald's ourselves. So damn McDonald's, they're doing a great job of getting free publicity out there.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to episode 3, even though so far it's going downhill for me. It's going uphill for you, and I'm excited for you. But I'm excited just again because I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it.
Same.
Yeah.
This is the most exciting part of the Loki for me.
100%. This is the most I've enjoyed MCU release for forever. And it has nothing to do with the quality of the show. It has everything to do with chatting with Benny Westside, everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess on that note, shall we say our goodbyes, my friend?
Sure.
For all time.
Always.
We'll see you in episode 3!